The stories you are about to see are real. The rewards up to $5 million are real. This is Crime Reports and Rewards with Griff Griffin and Dave Michaels, where you stay anonymous, the criminals don't.
On this week's edition of Crime Reports and Rewards, we want all of you to take the Crime Stoppers Challenge. Send us your video of you asking all local media to share Crime Stoppers. 800-222-TIPS, TIPS line, on all open cases. After all, the life you save may be your own. We'll go through all the videos and play the best one in each one that's funny. So try to make it funny and make some money. If you send in the funniest video for how to get all major media to play Crime Stoppers Tips Line, you could win up to $1,000. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office seeks to speak with Chris Sechon, also known as Peckerwood. No kidding, Peckerwood really is his street name. So if you run into a guy named Peckerwood, he's a person of interest in a stolen Monte Carlo case. Crime Reports and Rewards would also like to award Peckerwood with a Outstanding Citizen of the Year nomination just to see where it goes. If you know where Chris Sechon, also known as Peckerwood, might be, please call the Richmond County Sheriff's Office. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and make your mama proud. On Wednesday, October 29th, at approximately 20 hours, Richmond County Sheriff's deputies answered a call to the Dollar General located at 3250 Deansbridge Road regarding an armed robbery. Upon arrival, it was learned that a black male, approximately 5 foot 8 inches in height, with a slender build, who is light-skinned, was wearing khakis, and showed the clerk an unknown type handgun and demanded several prepaid Visa cards. The suspect fled the scene on foot in an unknown direction. Richmond County Sheriff's Office investigators are currently working on this investigation. Gee, I wonder if the thief knows that the clerk had to put some kind of cash balance on each of the stolen cards. If you know who or where this dumb crook armed robber may be, please call the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS, or text your tip to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and unrobbed by dumb crooks. And now for our most likely to shave your triangular goatee department. The pictured black male burglarized the Golden Pantry at 1759 Kissenbauer Road in the early morning hours on 10/22. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office is asking for assistance in identifying this black male suspect. The suspect appears to be a black male with a mustache and a long, triangular-shaped goatee and a medium build and height, wearing a long, below-the-waist, light-colored coat. If you think you know where this possibly previously goatee-sporting black male might be, please call the Property Crimes Unit of the Richmond County Sheriff's Office at 706-821-1020 and ask for Sergeant Steve Fanning, or Richmond County Sheriff's Dispatch at 706-821-1080. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803 441-8744, where you remain anonymous and keep your stuff. Please reference to case number 14-294554.
And now, this Crime Reports and Rewards special report.
And now, from the ignorance of the law is no excuse category, if ignorance of the law is no excuse, how come it's so hard to get your hands on the law? We've been trying to get a hold of the new animal ordinance ever since it hit the news, and nobody seems to be able to produce a copy of it and send it to us. We went to the Acrobat website, where you have to pay and pay and pay, about $20-something, but that's not the concern. When you register your email address on Acrobat, they're going to send that out to about 10,000 of their buddies, who are all going to send you a couple of emails a day and bury you under spam. So we just have to ask, if none of the county commissioners can send us a copy of this law that's about to criminalize about everybody in the CSRA, and when you try to get it from Acrobat, they're going to spam you to death, it doesn't appear that anybody's actually reading the new animal ordinance. Is this a new law where we have to pass it to find out what's in it? Does everybody realize that the way that this law is going to have to be enforced is they're going to have to walk up with a camera, their cell phone camera probably, and videotape your pet breaking the law somehow, such as being on a tether in your yard? They'll have to walk up to the tethered animal, videotape the tethered animal for a while, showing that you're not standing right there on top of the tethered animal. Then they're going to have to knock on your door on your private property without your permission of coming on the property. Then they're going to have to walk around the house, and, of course, they're going to have to look in the bathroom and, maybe scan the bedroom and, check out the garage, poke around in your cars. So then, after they do this and they videotape the whole thing so they can prosecute you for putting your animal on a tether inside your fence, so the animal won't dig under the fence or jump over the fence and cause an accident, they're gonna charge you for trying to protect your animal. Once the rapes and the robberies and the thefts just start going hog wild, the money is going to flee Richmond County like rats out of a burning barn. But that's not the best part. Let's say you have a contracting company and you bring, $2,000 or $3,000 worth of contracting gear into town to build a house or work on a roof or do this or that. In our day, we had a dog that we would transport to the location, typically in the cab, so we could pet on it and it could lay in our lap and sleep and stuff. But then we would put that dog back in the truck, making sure not to tie it to the rear bumper, of course, and let that dog nap in that truck. So when Joe Sticky Fingers shows up and tries to stick his sticky fingers in your truck and take that $1,000 welder you just bought, he encounters Cujo. And that saved a lot of jobs. Now, whenever the crew shows up, Cujo ain't gonna be in the back of the truck. Sticky Fingers will have already come and gone. And the tools for that crew of people, 5, 6, 7 people, will be gone. They're not going to be able to pressure wash the house. They're not going to be able to paint the house. They're not going to be able to fix whatever they came to do. And all those guys are going to be out of a job. So, please, let's all contact our county commissioners and anyone we can and at least get a copy of this new ordinance that's going to put hundreds, if not thousands, of people out of work, get a whole bunch of women raped and axe murdered and drowned in the tub routine to erase the sexual assault, and let's get that and look it over and help our commissioners understand that dogs and our pets are part of our arms. They don't want to let us have firearms. They don't want to let us have anything we can protect or defend ourselves because we're law-abiding citizens. Of course, you don't really see them chasing down the bad guys with the big guns because somebody might get hurt messing with a bad guy. They'd rather go pick on a taxpayer because you're not going to bother anybody. You're going to roll over, okay, here's my little pea shooter, and here's a pile of cash, and will you please let me out of this jail cell? So that's what's about to happen. Nobody is asking for a copy of the law. It's going to wipe out jobs left and right. It's going to chase cash and jobs and money out of this town like rats out of a burning barn. People are already buying real estate in North Augusta just over the river. I mean, you can ride over the river. They have a similar ordinance, but they're not going to be videotaping your dog on a lanyard. They're not going to enforce it the way they're planning on doing it here in Richmond County. Because in Richmond County, they're going broke. Their words, not mine. And to keep from going broke, Sharon Brody, who has already gone down in history as the greatest furry family executioner of all time, says that this is a great law. It's going to reach into your pocket and extract all that money that the county needs to save it from going bankrupt. That's how they're going to get the money to continue running the county. So that's why we're asking, call your county commissioners. Get a copy of this law that is going to criminalize you and help them understand, hey, we need to have our dogs be able to be in the back of our trucks to watch our stuff. The women need to explain, hey, I need my little dog on a tether at the back door while I'm taking a shower or a bath or gone off to get some goodies for Fido so I can bring back those things. Those stores sell it. Those are all merchants. They employ people. So let's talk to our commissioners. Let's save our jobs. Let's save our tools. Let's save our women. And if you need any help on this, send us an email to griff@AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, where we save your hide and send you a check.
And now, this Crime Reports and Rewards special report.
Since we're in an election year that will determine whether you'll be able to defend your own life from all the criminals who have guns, and you have to hop through every tiny little itty-bitty law and get your concealed carry permit and make sure you haven't broken any laws and make sure you're not involved in any legal entanglements and make sure this and make sure that and everything to be able to defend yourself. A recent survey came out that says, do you support increased gun control? The yes vote for increasing gun control laws was 4,886,942 votes. Those who do not want more gun control laws are 6,258,413 votes. Right now, we are at keeping our rights to defend ourselves. Of course, the bad guys are not going to obey any of these laws, and they're going to always have a gun. I mean, that's all we ever hear. The bad guy had a gun. He did this and he did that with the gun. So, right now, we're 4 points ahead of all the people that want to grab your guns, which, by the way, all the gun grabbers always have a gun. They're not trying to give up their gun. They're trying to get your gun. So right now, this exact second, we're 4 points ahead of those gun grabbers trying to grab our little pea shooter, even though they've got arsenals of guns and stacks of ammo. What do you guys think? Go to our Augusta Facebook page, AugustaCrimeStoppers.org, and let us know.
And now, this Crime Reports and Rewards special report.
If you work in law enforcement, I have a very important question for you, one which soon may be a matter of life or death. I'm sure some people become police officers just so they can boss other people around. But I'm going to assume here that you mean well, that you want to be one of the good guys. In which case, my question is this. Is there anything the politicians could enact into law that you wouldn't enforce? Is there any order that you would refuse to carry out? Or will you do absolutely anything your bosses tell you to? In the U.S., police have already obeyed orders to fine or arrest people for a wide variety of harmless activities, such as dancing at the Jefferson Memorial or having a vegetable garden in their front yard. Police have even gone so far as to execute violent paramilitary raids on food co-ops and organic farms. For decades, police have been carrying out armed home invasions, forced property confiscations, and other acts of violence against people who weren't hurting anyone, but who engaged in behaviors or habits which lawmakers have arbitrarily declared to be illegal. You may be comfortable in assuming that you'll never receive an order to do something truly immoral, but the fact is, with every order you receive, you have a choice between obeying without question or relying on your conscience. No doubt there were cops a few years ago who never expected to be ordered to disarm innocent people, to do door-to-door home searches without warrant or probable cause, or to detain and interrogate people for merely driving down a road. Yet police have since been ordered to do all of these things, and almost without exception they obeyed. So it's not unreasonable to ask, is there any point at which you will draw a line and say, no, that I will not do? And if you won't draw such a line anywhere, if you will do absolutely anything your political masters tell you to, how are you any different from the enforcers of Soviet Russia, Red China, or Nazi Germany? You may be tempted to say, I don't make the law, I just enforce it. Or to argue that if some legislature, court, or some authority above you says it's okay, then it must be. But keep in mind that this is exactly what the thugs of every tyrannical regime in history said to justify their actions. And how do we remember those people now? As courageous, noble law enforcers? No. Unless you want posterity remembering you as a heartless, mindless pawn of oppression, then you'd better decide, and decide now, where you will draw that line. Unfortunately, there's little indication that most cops have any line at all. The incidents of police officers refusing to inflict injustice upon the people are extremely rare. Even when cops say they personally oppose certain laws, such as marijuana prohibition, nearly all of them continue to violently enforce these laws against non-violent people. In other words, they recognize these laws as counterproductive and unjust, but they choose to enforce them anyway. For the most part, American cops seem completely incapable of disobeying immoral orders, and instead do what the enforcers of every other authoritarian empire have done, inflicting harm on innocent people whenever and however those in power tell them to, while accepting no personal responsibility for their actions. I hope you are better than that. Keep in mind there are a lot of decent Americans who do have the integrity and courage to draw a line in the sand, a point at which they will disobey and resist violations of their rights by those in power. It may be that they refuse to be disarmed. It may be that they refuse to cooperate with warrantless searches, or refuse to keep funding a government they view as destructive and unjust. Whether you agree with them doesn't particularly matter. What does matter is whether in the end you are willing, if and when you are ordered to do so, to violently assault the dissenters for their disobedience. When they draw their line in the sand and stand their ground, and your supervisors tell you to use whatever level of violence necessary to get submission and compliance from the resistors, will you obey? If it came down to it, would you kill American citizens for disobeying politicians? Now, if someone is actually harming someone else, of course you have the right to use whatever force necessary to stop the attacker and protect the innocent. But that would be the case even if you had no badge and no uniform. But when you try to arrest someone who hasn't threatened or harmed anyone else, but has only disobeyed some arbitrary regulation, then you are the one initiating force. You are the one starting a fight. You are the bad guy. Now remember, the American Revolution was people forcibly resisting gun confiscation, warrantless searches, what they viewed as unfair taxation, and a number of other oppressions. All in the name of law, all carried out by law enforcers. If you had lived back then, Would you have been among the rebel colonists, the ones who refused to be disarmed, refused to pay taxes, and resisted warrantless detainment and searches? Would you have sided with the signers of the Declaration of Independence, or would you have been among the redcoats, the law enforcers, assaulting, caging, or killing any colonists with the gall to disobey the king? And which side are you on today? Of course, the message you'll get from your superiors, the politicians, and your fellow officers is that it's not your place to decide which laws to enforce, and that as long as you faithfully follow orders, that you can't be held personally responsible for doing as you're told. But that is a lie, a horribly dangerous lie. At the Nuremberg trials, it was established that the excuse used by the Nazi law enforcers that they weren't to blame and shouldn't be punished because they were just doing as they were told did not relieve them of personal responsibility for their actions. And make no mistake, if you choose to blindly obey unjust commands, and one day your intended victims decide to fight back, saying that you're just doing your job will not make you bulletproof. It may be your own life you save by deciding now at what point you will choose to be a moral, responsible human being instead of just an obedient pawn of those in power. Ultimately, only you can answer the question of where you will draw that line. But really, the only moral, rational answer is this. If something would be wrong for you to do without a badge, then you shouldn't do it with one either. The idea that uniforms and legislation can give you special rights is both false and horribly dangerous. Nearly every large-scale injustice in history was committed by people who wrongly imagined that their position of authority made it okay for them to do things that other people have no right to do. Like everyone else, you have the right to use force to stop attackers and protect the innocent, and when you do that, you are the hero. But you have no right to be the attacker, even if it's your job, and even if the aggression is called law. Always, in every situation, you and you alone are responsible for what you do. Wearing a badge and a uniform and doing whatever you're told does not make you brave and noble or deserving of any respect. Just following orders is a coward's excuse. If your job requires you to assault or cage people who haven't threatened or harmed anyone, then quit. Being an actual protector, doing the right thing no matter what anyone else says, even if it means disobeying orders and breaking the law, that takes courage and integrity. That makes you a hero. So, do you have enough of a spine to draw that line? Decide now, before your failure to think for yourself results in damage that cannot be undone.
Shut up! Stop looking at me! This wasn't supposed to be your life!
And now, this Crime Reports and Rewards special report.
Meth has been around since the dawn of the 20th century and goes by many street names. Meth, crystal meth, ice, crank speed, and hillbilly heroin. It's a stimulant that works by boosting the neurotransmitter dopamine, leading to an intense euphoria in users. This causes a person to become more highly addicted much faster. Small cooks, big woes. For many folks, the mention of meth labs conjures up images of outlaw bikers cooking up drugs in the desert, or the deranged chemist Walter White, character on AMC's Breaking Bad. Most of the meth supply today comes from Mexican drug cartels smuggling the drug across the border and moving it through a sophisticated network of distribution routes. But enterprising small-scale cooks remain a thorn in the side of local and state law enforcement authorities, brewing batches with mobile equipment that can be stuffed in a backpack for transport. If you see a bottle on the side of the road with a rusty liquid in it, don't pick it up. The resultant explosion of the volatile chemicals inside may blow your hand off. In South Carolina, the State Law Enforcement Division last year busted hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of meth labs, most of them mobile, more than double the meth labs from last year. They're a huge problem, one of our biggest problems we have in our state, said Lieutenant Max Dorsey of South Carolina's SLED. They're a ticking time bomb that can cause destruction of property, the environment, the healthcare system, the economy, and the criminal justice system. A fireball exploded in a Goose Creek apartment where 2 males had been cooking meth, destroying the 2-story building and killing 3 people, including a 4-year-old boy. In South Carolina, for example, meth lab cleanups have cost taxpayers millions and millions. Many Leos are now saying that after being involved in it for the last 10 years or so, their opinion is that it's getting progressively worse. And without funding in place to dispose of these labs, the burden is going to fall back on the local agencies. Augusta has recently had a meth addict come across the river and steal the keys to a Mercedes AMG, then drive it back across the river. When Leos pulled her over, she showed the stolen keys to the officer and said, "See, he gave me this EAMG. I have the keys." Even though she went to jail on 2 other warrants and was a known car thief and meth addict, the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office let her go, even though the owner of the paid-for AMG was never notified by them. Then, they listed the AMG as recovered when the owner never recovered his AMG. Meth factories have been reported on both sides of Highway 421 and Beach Island. Some of the meth addicts have come to Georgia asking to clean up homes, RV, and boats, only to steal anything they can, including keys to cars, run back across the state line, and when caught, show the stolen keys to the officers and say, "They gave me this car. See, I have the keys." Some investigators are not accepting written sworn statements from meth addict crime victims, choosing not to take the written report of the Grand Theft Auto crime victim, who reported the theft within an hour of the theft, as seen on WRDW TV 12 with Ryan Houston. The meth freak was even caught red-handed in the stolen car. The owner's name, phone number, and everything was in a stack of business cards, and then there was the registration with his name on it. Then there was the VIN number with his name attached to it. No one even ran a background check on the meth freak to see the rap sheet as long as your arm that this meth freak reportedly has. If a typically white female from South Carolina asks to clean your home, car, RV, or boat, watch them like a hawk. Or better yet, ask them to leave your property and never come back. They may look like they would never steal. It's very hard to spot a meth freak because they typically do not reek and their eyes are not red. The main way you'll learn they're meth freaks is when they steal your stuff because you tried to give them a chance. If you or you have been a victim of a meth freak stealing your car keys, then your car, or anything else, please call the police. Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or text your tips to 803-441-8744, where you remain anonymous and keep your stuff.
You've been watching Crime Reports and Rewards with Griff Griffin and Dave Michaels, where you stay anonymous. The criminals don't. If you have any information on these or any other crimes, call our national tip line at 1-800-222-TIPS. Well, you'll stay anonymous and could get a cash reward. You can see this or any other episode of Crime Reports and Rewards on the web anytime at crimereportsandrewards.com. Crime Reports and Rewards is a production of Michaels Media.